groups and stuff were kind of a new thing, I think, around that time, and so there was no kind of matrix to set yourself against or compare yourself with.
You know, every band seemed, through coincidence or through design, whatever, someone had a room or a rendezvous place. You'd meet up, and that became your headquarters.
You know, we were just all kids hanging out and kind of thrown together by this strange musical thing we were involved in. The Alex's Pie Stand thing was just where we always used to end up in the middle of the night coming back from a gig. Alex's Pie Stand was an iconic place in Birmingham. It sounds daft, but it really was. It was just, well, it's now a car park and some advertising hoardings, and it's where the old Albany Hotel used to be. Wherever you'd been, whether you'd been, you know, in North Birmingham, if you say you've been working in Wolverhampton or something, or if you'd been in Worcester or in Birmingham itself, it was such a perfect place to meet up. You'd drive into Birmingham late at night, so probably around midnight, and there'd be all these group vans all parked up, and we'd all meet, and that's where the move really started to be put together. So that became a place where lots of deals were done and lots of groups, you know, if somebody wanted to get somebody else in their group, they'd be like meeting them at Alex's or something, and deals would be done, various things like that. And generally all the bands would just talk, you know, what songs you're doing these days and which girls you're dating and, you know, whatever. And it'd all get... And the food was delicious. These were these fabulous fleur-de-lis pies, and you used to do great hot dogs. And you couldn't have it, the only drink was hot, it was tea or coffee. And it was just a wonderful place to meet. And Johnny Prescott, the boxer who was very successful, British heavyweight champ, another Birmingham guy, loved his music. He used to go to Alex's Pie Stand, and we loved it when he was there because he used to pay for everybody. Everything's on me because you're making a few quid, you know. I mean, I benefited out of the first, or one of the first kind of deals that were being done behind the scenes in terms of when the move were put together. Carl Wayne, who I didn't know at that time, but I knew him later, but at that time he went around kind of getting all the best people out of the groups. You know, like got Roy Wood out of Mike Sheridan's group, Trevor Burton out of Danny King's group, Bev Bevan, was he in the Diplomats? I think he was. I'm not sure. Anyway, he got all these guys out of all these groups. It upset a lot of people doing it, you might imagine. But I benefited because then Trevor left Danny King. Danny King heard a record that I'd made down the studio, phoned me up, said, I want you in my band, I like this record you've made and I want you in my band. So I was one of the ones who got pulled up to the next rung because these other guys had moved on to. I didn't know at the time. It was David Bowie was chatting to, I think he was at the Cedar Club. He got talking to Ace Kefford and Trevor Burton and said, you know, there's what you should do, because they were two very young guys. Trevor was only 17, Ace was probably 18, good-looking lads. He said, you know what, and David Bowie said, what you should do is, there's all these bands in Birmingham, just find the best people and put a band that looks good and can really play, and get down to London, and you're never going to make it here in Birmingham. Get down to London and do something. And so they actually started it. And they asked Roy Wood first, because he was with Mike Sheridan and the Night Riders, and really good player, good singer. And then it was me, and then it was Carl Wayne. We formed in late '65, and then '66 we started actually put it together. Our first gig, and there's a little plaque actually on the wall. It was the Belfry, better known as a golf club now, but there used to be a regular Monday night gig at the Belfry, and the Move, that was our first ever show. And then that same night we went on to the Cedar Club in Birmingham dinner. It was a double header, and I met my wife the same night. I saw them first at the Cedar, and they were just terrific, you know. I mean, Jeff Lynne was just knocked out with Roy and that, and he became friends with Roy. Jeff said to me, he's the best guitarist I've ever seen, you know, and I mean, we used to just be gobsmacked at the move. They were just great.
I have to say, probably the best band I've ever been in was the original Move, because we were so keen and we could all play, and the energy level was incredible. So I think 66 and 67 were just brilliant.
Roy Wood was put on the map by the Move, which came out of Carl Wayne's vision for forming a supergroup. He was like an entrepreneur of the music scene, you know, in the way he put that group together, and kind of he knew what he was aiming at, and it worked.
Tony Blackburn was going to launch Radio 1 with Flowers in the Rain because he liked the Thunderstorm. We were driving back from somewhere way up in Scotland or somewhere, and we were actually still on the road at 7 in the morning coming back, and we pulled into a lay-by or a transport cafe or something to listen to our record being the first one on Radio 1. Then Ace Kev had real problems. He took too much acid, actually. That didn't help. He took this great load of homemade acid, which is LSD, which is a really stupid thing to do. And he was a fragile character anyway, and that sort of turned him over the edge. And it became impossible to work with. You know, had to sack him basically, which was a shame. And then Trevor started to turn weird because we had our one and only number one, Blackberry Way, 69. We're literally number one. And Trevor says, I'm leaving. You know, so after all, we'd finally got number one, and he left.
Trevor had left the Move, Denny had left the Moody's. Now they're both in with me, and it looked like fait accompli. I'm pretty sure that Tony Secunda had this agenda going. He looked at the individuals and he thought, he'll do, and he was looking to build a supergroup, of which I was a part, but he didn't consider the rest of the Uglies to be part of it. One by one, he gave them all the sack. Unfortunately, there was always conflict between Trevor and Denny because they both wanted to play lead guitar, and they decided that they would share the guitar and share the bass playing. So there was always going to be that clash there, and then we could never sort of settle on a drummer, and we auditioned lots of different guys. We used to rehearse in a barn, but we always chose to rehearse about 3 o'clock in the morning, and you know, we'd get complaints from the local constabulary. It was never a smooth operation from the word go. It was fraught with difficulty. So never all getting up at the same time, all going to bed at different times. There was a lot of stuff imbibed, and a lot of indulgence going on. And because there was an endless supply of revenue, because Tony Secunda had signed a management deal with an American film company, you know, on the promise of this supergroup, with that kind of luxury. You would think there would be nothing to prevent us, but it just didn't happen.